Good evening, everyone. I'm Dev Priyam.
I'm Samruddha Shete.
Wonderful. First of all, without any further ado, I would first of all like to welcome each one of you to this particular webinar. And more than that, congratulate all of you, all the 50, 60 people who are right now live and many more who will join us during the session on the fact that you as a working professional have taken out time on a weekday, on a weekend to spend time on upskilling yourself, right? So, congratulations, everyone. And I hope this webinar is useful to you. To start with, I'll first talk about what's the agenda, why are we here, and what all will be part of this program. So what's the agenda? The agenda is to talk about blockchain as an industry and what does that mean to you and you who come from people who come from different backgrounds, right? People who are developers right now, people who are in product management, people who are architects, managers, consultants, and for everyone here, there is scope to really use and leverage the fact that blockchain is blooming in India and globally. Before we start, I would introduce myself and where I work. That is upGrad. I'm Dev Priyam. I'm the program director for the technology programs at upGrad. I take care of blockchain, product management, and some of the other programs which are focused on new age technologies. Why I am at upgrad? I am super enthusiastic about edtech space. I was working in Southeast Asia, and I've dealt with multiple IT services companies across India, Southeast Asia, Australia. And one fine day, I realized that I have to be in India in edtech space. Got a call from Ronnie, and yes, here I am, and I've spent almost 2 years with upgrad, and I've been part of this journey, which has been pretty with lots of ups and downs, and with lots of learning, has been excellent and great for me. Uh, Coming back, what's my background? I am an engineer by profession, and right now I'm here and I'm taking care of program development in the field of technology. So yeah, so that is of interest to me, and I'm now living that dream. I come from IIT Delhi, and I've spent significant time working with technology firms, as I said, across India. Samruddha.
Hi everyone, my name is Samruddha Shete. I'm a computer engineer by profession. I completed computer engineering and later on I worked as a Java developer. I also explored augmented reality domain as well. I got a chance to work with IIT Bombay on a smart city project for augmented reality domain. Now currently I am working with upGrad and a blockchain team. It is currently working with sales and delivery of blockchain. This is particular technology which has fascinated me a long time, and I am currently handling a technical part of blockchain with upGrad.
Wonderful. Thanks, Samruddha, for again taking out time for this webinar. So, in any question where I get stuck, Samruddha is good enough to
Definitely.
answer all those questions. So, feel free to post your questions. So, before we start the webinar, some quick rules. The first rule is that let us keep this interaction very, very interactive. That's how the word interaction comes. I'm not using the word webinar. So on the right side of the window, you'll see that there is a chat box, where my colleague Samir is actually moderating the chat, and he's sending us all the messages and all the questions that you have on our phones, where we'll be able to answer those questions for you. So my humble request is let us keep the questions flowing throughout the session, and I will ensure that all the questions are answered, and if they are not, I'll ensure that I personally reach out to you and answer those questions. What's the second rule? The second rule is that do not hesitate in answering a question. No question is wrong, and we are not here all blockchain experts. We are all learning together, and that's the mission with which upgrad operates. So do not worry, do not hesitate, do not think twice before posting a question. Each question is equally important to us. And the third rule is that let us also look through and hear what we are saying, because I'll spend around 20 minutes first to take you through some of the slides that I have, which will keep the interaction focused to an agenda, and then we'll be taking all the questions. Does that work, Samrita?
Yes, sure.
Wonderful. So let's start. Keep the questions flowing, and here we go. Great. So the first thing first, you see upgrad on your screen, and what is written there? It's written building careers of tomorrow, right? That's our core mission, and we stick to it. We focus on all the sectors which are actually only talking about what will the careers be in next 3 4 5 years, and we want all of you to take the first mover advantage and actually make a successful career for yourself. Samsula, do you agree with that?
Yes, obviously, considering the timeline of the blockchain, it is a new technology which has arisen in the industry right now. Many people are aware about it, but not many are into it. So this could be a timing game.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, yeah, both Samruddha and I are on the same page. Let's go on to the next slide. What does that say? Uh, it's pretty interesting, and I think I'll spend some time here, and I would love if some of you can actually spend time on hearing some of the looking at some of the words that are there on the slide. The first thing, uh, I mean, I would have loved if I could have gotten some responses. Please feel free to put in comment box the best word that you like about what upgrad means, and I would speak about some of those. Online campus, right? Very interesting. There are many edtech providers, there are many online education providers, but we believe in an online campus, right? What does that mean and what does that entail? First, we partner with universities to offer any program. What does that mean? First, you get university recognition, and you also get that academic perspective which sometimes is missing from very industry oriented programs. What's the second thing? Campus. What does that mean? A lot of interaction, a lot of networking, a lot of opportunities to really grow, not just professionally but personally too. And what does that mean? We have student mentors, we have counselors. We do not call our team admissions team, we are counseling team. We actually take people through what really is whether the program really makes sense or not. Even if you do not do the program, we are more than happy to help you out, map your career journey. uh, Samruddha, pick a word and maybe we'll talk about it.
I think the one word I am seeing more often in this image is online learning.
Wonderful.
So I think we should talk about it.
Yeah. So what does online learning really mean? First of all, we are not saying education. We are not saying, because all those are traditional words. Learning is continuous, and I'm moving to the next word, which is also there, which is continuous learning. Learning never stops, right? We have learners who have done 4 5 6 programs with us. They're constantly upgrading themselves. They're constantly ensuring that they are on the top of the game while being in the industry, right? What are the careers of tomorrow? I think I've already talked about it. We have talked about get an upgrad, right? Again, it's a pretty interesting thing. This is the right time, and you have to go into it. I think this sums up what upgrad is. I'll not talk more about it because I think I want to stick to the uh, key agenda, which is blockchain. And let's go there. Okay, I think there's an interesting image in front of all of you, and the title is "Where should we focus this year?" Right. So a lot of you would have faced this situation where you would be having a conversation with someone, and someone would say, "Where should we focus this year?" And then a SME will come in and say, "Blockchain." And will give you all the jargon. It'll change everything. Everyone is talking about it. Potential applications are endless. We don't want to be left behind. I have been doing exactly the same thing till now, right? And then someone just comes down and says, okay, what exactly is blockchain? And oh yeah, there's artificial intelligence too, right? So we'll not do that. We'll stick to blockchain, and we'll actually answer real questions around blockchain, and we'll help you out with that. Moving next. So that cartoon didn't answer the question what is blockchain, but I will, right? What is blockchain? Sambuddha, would you take a stab for a layman's term? What would you explain what blockchain is?
If you what do you consider blockchain? It is again a word which is coming to you again and again. But is there someone who is able to answer it in a layman's term? Yes or no? I think no.
Wonderfully, well answered. And I'll just then use some technical jargons and then come to each one of them. So blockchain is an incorruptible digital ledger. Ledger is basically any database of any economic transaction that can be programmed to record not just financial transactions but virtually everything, anything and everything of value. So again, very well answered, that you cannot answer blockchain just in a very simple layman term language, but I'll still try to break it down. And the focus of this entire blockchain presentation and webinar would be to break it down in as layman's term language as possible, as Samruddha rightly said. So there are 5 key aspects to it. The one is that it is a digital ledger. So it is a digital database that keeps a record of all transactions on a peer-to-peer network. So I think the best way to talk about blockchain is that there are 2 ways in which you can send a file to someone, right? One is you can copy a Word file and send an email, attach that and send it to the other person who is the recipient. And the other way is that you actually put it on Google Drive and do a common share with 3 other people. What changes? What changes is that, first of all, any transaction, and a transaction here necessarily means that anything that is getting changed on that Word file is actually recorded, is democratized,
Yes.
right? Which is the second point, which I'll come to, is democratized. And the fact that if there is a change, it is actually recorded. So you can actually go back on a Google Drive and trace back what were the changes that were made. So it makes it transparent, and it is a peer-to-peer network.
Yes.
Right.
So to summarize this statements, these 3, 4 statements, it is about the transparency that this technology brings to your table.
Yeah, completely. And the second important thing is that it is decentralized, right? So there is no need of a central authority. And the best example, which is a lot of people would be hearing about, is that a cryptocurrency network actually just completely removes the need of any central authority, like Reserve Bank of India, which plays a very, very important role in ensuring that there is some sort of authority and some sort of control across the industry. So there is no need for any decentralization power, and this is a very, very powerful concept. And I'll come to it on the next and the some of the other slides, that how decentralization plays such an important role. The second thing is that it can be used, and a lot of people just think about cryptocurrency when they talk about blockchain. I'm sure you would have faced that question
Which-
a lot of times.
Which is a major problem. I won't say it is a problem. It is because of the hype that was created because of blockchain. Not blockchain, but it was because of Bitcoin. In 2017, we witnessed rise of Bitcoin. So everyone started thinking that blockchain is equal to Bitcoin, which is not true. It is a subset of blockchain.
Yeah, wonderful. So, yeah, as Sabruda correctly said, that please, and I think I got some questions, pre-recorded questions also, which said that crypto. There is recent ruling by government of India. It's actually not a law right now, but there is a framework that has been given that anyone who's dealing in cryptocurrency within India, there will be a criminal proceeding on that. And someone asked me that, okay, does that mean that the future of blockchain is bleak in India? That's absolutely not true. Cryptocurrency is just one of the applications of blockchain when it comes to especially application in India, because RBI is still strong. The second thing is that encrypted information can be shared without any risks, right? So there is no risk of theft, privacy, and there's always that you can maintain privacy while maintaining a democratized network, right? Now let's take a step back. Let's again go back and talk about what are the 3 things and how it actually works out. So how it works out is that the blockchain is, why is it called, first of all, a blockchain? It's called blockchain because it is built block by block. Now what does a block mean? A block means a a piece or a parcel of information that can have its unique values. It can also have coherent values from the previous block where it will get attached, right? So it's a unique parcel of information which will fit into only a specific type of box. Now what does that mean? Once a transaction is registered in a blockchain framework, it cannot be deleted, removed, because before it was added, it was verified by multiple other units and multiple other systems that already were storing similar information. Yeah, so it again creates a very, very powerful network. Now, a lot of people will ask, okay, so is blockchain technology really the new internet? The answer is yes, right? At the end of the day, what is blockchain doing is blockchain is basically another type of a database. Now, what it means is that by allowing digital information to be distributed and at the same time not copied, blockchain technology is actually developing almost like a backbone of a completely new type of internet with 3 core principles: decentralization, transparency, and
Immutability.
wonderful, right? So these are the three things which any blockchain framework keeps in mind. Now, what does that necessarily translate to? And I think that should excite most of you. And what really changes the game is that a blockchain network doesn't carry any transaction cost, right? At the same time, there is an infrastructure cost, but to make a transaction on a blockchain based network, you don't have to pay anything,
Yes.
right? And that brings us to the next slide, which is again very interesting. So I'll just talk about a use case, which is that, okay, so all this is very good. How can this disruption really occur? And I will ensure that I'm not using the cryptocurrency example here, because it's overused, and I think it creates the wrong hype about blockchain as a technology, which cryptocurrency was just one application, and there are so many applications. So Samruddha, tell me one industry which we should pick.
So let's start with the music industry first.
Wonderful. A lot of people will not find it natural that music industry may have an application of blockchain may have an application in music industry, but believe me, music industry is in a complete mess right now from a musician's perspective. What does that mean? Say I'm a musician, I'm a songwriter. To actually take my song to the real audience, I'll have to go through first a big label. I'll not name any of these big labels because I'm not allowed to. Or you'll have to go to some of the tech companies. Again, I'll not note them, but you'll know all the OTT providers that are there right there on your phone right now, which almost extract extreme amount of value from the product that the musician, who's the uh, core product, was actually taking out of it. And at the end of the day, the artist is just left with some breadcrumbs, right? Nothing left with the artist. So my proposition then is that, what if the new music industry was a distributed app on blockchain? That's interesting, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what would that entail? It would entail that you listen to music, it's free. I mean, anyone can go and listen to music, it's free. But if you want to put it in your movie, it is going to cost you. And how much? So there's a concept called smart contracts that is made possible via blockchain. You can establish smart contract, and if you want to put it in movie, and the only way to put it in the movie is go through that blockchain transaction, is by enabling and starting that smart contract, and you can just go right on the go. And what about if I want to use the ringtone? I have another smart contract for that same too. What does it mean? It completely revolutionizes the industry. How? Because right now the artists don't really need to go to the Amazons of the world and to the other OTTs of the world. They can directly reach out to their customers. Now, my question, I think a lot of people will ask, okay, are we talking about 2050? No, that's not the case. The blockchain revolution is happening. And why I'm saying that? Because Imogen Heap is one of the most famous songwriters in UK, is actually working with consensus system, which is one of the largest providers of blockchain in the European market, is actually working on the Ethereum based blockchain framework, and has created a very similar app where she has actually posted some of her songs which are really going viral via that network. And she's literally extracting all the value that she had created herself through her creativity, right? So that's such a brilliant thing, and I'm sure this would have excited you about one of the use cases. And I'll move on further, and I'll be more than happy to take questions. So if you have a question here, you can post it on the right side of the chat window, and I'll take it once this presentation is done. So let's talk about what are some of the major sectors in blockchain. Samruddha, would you want to take it?
Yes, I can. So financial services, BFSI sector. So many people coming from the banking, finance, insurance. I think this blockchain, this particular word, you have been hearing day in, day out. But what is this? What, do you have any technical? Do we get any technical sense out of it? Are we getting it? I think the answer would be no.
Yeah. So what would be some of the applications? I think the first thing which comes out is lending, right? P2P lending is becoming big. It has already picked up across the world, and India, again, there are platforms coming. PayU is again adopting blockchain at a big level. Stock trading, right? Where the concerns around privacy, where the concerns around ensuring that there is transparencies are so strong, will also pick up. And I'll again come back to how they have adopted. And I'm not even talking about cryptocurrency, right? Within financial services, there is immense scope. And I think this is first segment where we will not just see disruption. There's already disruption happening, and I'll talk about some of those in the next bit.
Just to give a clarification, just to give a sense in layman's term, if blockchain was already inculcated in BFSI sector, then the classic case of Harshad Mehta of assets in 1994 would not have happened.
No, and very well said. Actually, the entire concept of transparency becomes so simple when we talk about enough blockchain framework. Now, in healthcare also, there are again many use cases. One of the biggest use case is actually on processing mediclaims, right?
Yes.
I'm sure so many of you would have had so many issues while processing your mediclaim, and it's a systemic issue. The systemic issue is because the data is not democratized. You have no proof whether you can really trust that data or not, and it could be manipulated. While you have data base in a blockchain framework, you cannot have any manipulation. You have the data as democratized as it can be, and you have transparency. So if any third party auditor wants to go and check whether that transaction on the mediclaim worked out, they can already do it. Again, on healthcare sector, I'll talk about some of the startups in India that are doing really well, but we'll be more than happy to take some questions on healthcare sector. Governance, again, big. I think you would have read the quote of Mr. Narendra Modi, who is a prime minister, who said in a 2019 conclave that blockchain and artificial intelligence will be the two key game-changing technologies that India will adopt across its governance framework to ensure that there is good governance, right? And what do we mean by that? And there are endless applications, and the government is working left, right, and center, working with startups in India. If you have to start today, I think each one of you should go and search about the bank chain project, right? Bank chain is one of the biggest project that SBI has taken with some of the other larger banks too, where they're completely revolutionizing banking with blockchain. And it starts right from your account creation to any transactions to P2P lending to your net banking. Everything in the next 2 years will actually go via blockchain network. Again, applications like passport office, right? There's so much time that is only taken just to verify whether your records were correct or not. I remember 7 days at least I had the period when I took the expedited way to just get my details verified, while if my data would have been stored in a blockchain type of framework, it would have been much easier. My second thing is, with this Aadhaar and having a unique identification framework, it becomes even more critical. And there were so many concerns regarding privacy of the data that's stored via in the government databases. If we have the blockchain framework, it becomes much more easier. Yeah. So any questions again will be taken right after this. I think, but the essence, and that's where I think we'll talk about is that all that is good. I understand what blockchain does. How big is the opportunity in India, right? I think that's the core of the question. There are many emerging technologies. There's so much happening in the digital space in general. But how big it is in India. So let me start by some of the facts that we have. The first thing is that the global market, let's talk about the global market, is about 500 million right now. Yes. This is the last year figure, Samruddha.
2018.
Yeah. And this is expected to grow beyond $7 billion in the next 3 to 4 years. That's immense. That's huge growth. We're not talking about from a small number. We're talking about from $500 million to 7 billion. That's an increase of 14 times. Right? That's a significant increase in just 3 years, and these are estimates by IBM. So globally, the market is increasing. We have established the fact. Now let's come back to India, right? So one of the article by Hindu Business Line says that the Indian blockchain market is projected to grow at around 85 CAGR between 18 to 24. And how is this? Where is this growth actually coming from? The growth is actually mostly driven by digital wallets and UPI, which is a initiative that is on priority for the government, and we are seeing that market itself will grow, will reach from 500 billion by 2020 as compared to 50 billion that it was a year ago. So that market itself is seeing that meteoric increased growth, and that would further drive blockchain adoption in India. Now, to give you some data points here and there, There was a consortium of 11 major banks that actually teamed up to start India's first blockchain linked funding for SMB. Right? Any one of you can actually go and search it, and you'll realize that at the financial sector level, as Samruddha was rightly saying, even the government banks and even the private banks are actually coming together to adopt blockchain and to adopt blockchain in their own processes, right? So all the SMB lending, which used to take a significantly long time, which actually led to some of the other startups, including Capital Flow and others, to come as a value proposition because the lending time was so much, right? And it was such a complex process. So now the banks are coming back with a bang, and they're saying that we'll use blockchain to facilitate small and medium lending to small and medium enterprises. Now, this is from government perspective. What is happening on private space? Okay, wherever Mukesh Ambani invests, that's a growing field, right? Let me put it in as straightforward as that. And Mukesh Ambani led Reliance Industries has actually acquired a significant minority stake in a blockchain startup, which is VKT Holding, for around $5 million. That's a huge number. And the fact that Mr. Ambani is actually investing that is, again, I'm not quoting this to give you a fact that okay, this 5 billion number is huge, but by the fact that there everyone in India is actually looking towards that. And this is all from a perspective of okay, these are some of the things that are happening, but what does that at the end of the day mean for all of us who are part of this entire landscape? So Indeed, which is one of the job search platforms, Amruddha, there was a 290% increase in the number of jobs that were around blockchain and cryptocurrency. This number has actually been revised, and we see that LinkedIn actually ranked blockchain development as one of the most significant job in the industry.
It is currently ranked on third.
It is currently ranked globally as the number third emerging job as blockchain developer, right? By LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one place where you actually get to know what really is the emerging field. Now, there's $9.7 billion total spending by 2021 with a CAGR of 82%. That's huge, right? We're saying that almost the industry is doubling year on year, and that itself shows that it becomes important. So good. What we have talked about is that there is increase in number of jobs, and there's a huge number of jobs in the market. There's spending happening in the market, and that spending is increasing. But then what's the most important question? If you are in that market, are you on equal term with another developer or another architect or another manager? What would some of your question be?
Not at all. So the reason being, blockchain developers, there are very few people in the industry, but there is a huge demand. How many people are there in the industry, and what is the supply? This is where the actual point comes down to.
Yeah.
So the obvious reason is the blockchain developers are getting paid higher than the regular software developers.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
and the number is not just a minimalistic number. I think you can say the number.
Yeah, it's 40 to 60%. We are seeing that we are having growth in terms. If you're really say you are an architect who is working on SAP, and if you're working on blockchain, you'll realize that you will have 40 to 60% increase and differential in the kind of remuneration that you're getting. And we are not saying that. We have seen that through multiple other learners that we have had in the past. But the fact is that Randstad, which is one of the biggest agencies, actually quoting that. Right. So I think we've established the fact that blockchain as a sector is growing. It's growing in India. It's growing at a good rate. There are a lot of jobs. And then those jobs are high value jobs. Right. And again, Samruddha put it like completely on target, wherein it's not that blockchain, say 10 years down the line, will also be paid much more than any other developer. No, the fact is that there are lesser number of people in the market who have that skill. There's a higher demand. We're talking about 82% CAGR. So it's simple that given that there is a mismatch in the supply and demand, anyone who has an understanding of blockchain will be a valuable employee to the organization, startup, and large IT services firms. So I think once we have talked about that, the next question automatically arises is that okay, this domain is fine. Then what are some of the uh, new question? What are some of the roles that would come in into this segment? The first one is a manager or a consultant. Again, this is the same IT services profiles that exist. It's just that the technology on which you operate gets changed. If you're a manager or you're a consultant, you can do two things. One is that first you can be part of the entire pre-sales process, right? While you're going to the banks, while I mean IBM has one of the biggest blockchain labs across the world. They have huge openings in terms of the pre-sales consultants, right? And one of the biggest criteria right now with them is that either you need to have done a capstone sort of a assignment with an organization, or you need to have a degree in blockchain, right, to really qualify for those kind of roles. Then there is an architect role, wherein once a project is sold or even in the pre-sales process, uh, once you will understand the requirements of the customer, and you'll actually design the entire framework. On you'll choose what framework will you use, Ethereum versus others. What kind of tools would you be using? What kind of framework will work? That's the role of an architect. And then comes the biggest chunk here, which is the developer chunk, right? This is the space where we have seen the highest growth in terms of the kind of job openings that are coming in, right? And you can always understand there's a pyramid structure that any project follows, and obviously there'll be lesser number of consultants versus developers. So developers become one of the most important element. We have seen that in general, for each blockchain developer that exists in India, there are 7 job openings for them. This is a stat that we are sharing, and you can again go back and check. This is this open source available text right now. Again, this will not stay for long because the technology will evolve. More and more people will come in this field. Right now is the right time to get into it. So before I get into the program and what we have, should we take a pause and let's answer some of the questions? Does that work? Samruddha, does
I
that
think
work?
yes, we should go ahead with some of the questions that we have received from the learners. So I
Sure.
think first question I think I would take is with name is Mrinal Kumar Jha, and the question is how blockchain is useful for supply chain system.
Yeah. So just 1 minute. I think the screen share is not off right now. It's working. Cool. So can you repeat the question,
Yeah, so
Samruddha?
the question is from Mrinal Kumar Jha, and the
Yeah.
question is how blockchain is useful for supply chain system.
Wonderful. And I think I am in a right position to answer this question because there's a friend of mine who works with one of the largest FMCG company in India, and I'm sure you would get to know the name of that company. Again, an FMCG company is basically a pure game of supply chain, right? At the end of the day, you have to take multiple raw material, you have to get them all together in one factory, you'll have to combine all of them, give it to the distributors, and it goes out. And the biggest problem that that company particularly faces in India right now is that it's not able to manage its contracts. It is not able to manage its contracts with the producers of tobacco leaf. It's not able to manage its contracts with some of the distributors that it has, and it's not able to process its salaries, its fees,
Payment
its
releases.
payments on time because of this extremely high number of their suppliers and their distributors. And it becomes critical in that kind of a supply chain to have one democratized network where there is transparency, where you are actually ensuring that the money is actually going to the farmer who's delivering on ground and is not taken by some of the middlemen, right? So this particular FMCG company is actually has developed an internal incubator on blockchain, and they're completely revolutionizing their contract management system via blockchain. I hope that answered part of your question, but supply chain will be again one sector which will be critical, and you'll see that, and you'll search supply chain management and blockchain and you'll hear so many examples. After BFSI, I think
Supply chain
supply
is the
chain will be the
largest
largest
dominant
one.
sector.
And the reason is that because the entire supply chain is so distributed, it becomes super important. There is transparency and there is one record which people can refer to.
Yes.
I hope that answered your question. Sorry, what was the name of the
It was from Mrinal Kumar Jha.
Mridal, I hope I answered that question, and you can also ask a follow up question if that works. Samruddha, next question.
Yeah. So again, next a very common question which we face on marketing and sales front every day.
Yeah.
So after a ban on cryptocurrency in India, how blockchain will survive, or how blockchain industry will affect in India?
It's very difficult. No, it's not a difficult question to answer. It's a easy question to answer. I think let's take an example like this. Microsoft came up with Excel, right? Which was a framework, and then a lot of people started using Excel to do accounting. And then suddenly the accounting firm I'm just building a hypothetical example, and certainly the accounting accreditation organization across the world, which is CA, the organization that manages CA, says that Excel will not be used for managing accounts, right? Does that mean Excel will stop its business? No, Excel was the framework which had multiple applications. Excel will still survive. And that's a similar case with blockchain. In India, especially, people were already apprehensive about cryptocurrency. And you would see that in India, cryptocurrency was still not understood. Cryptocurrency was still not adopted. And government had given very clear signals that we will not be extremely open right now because first thing, financial sector is a critical sector, right? You do not want to delegitimize the value that RBI carries at this point of time at the state where the economy is right now. So the government has taken a call that right now let's not get into the cryptocurrency mode, which is basically P2P lending via some miners. But it's not saying blockchain. SBI is actually adopting blockchain, right? Mr. Narendra Modi, who is the Prime Minister of India, is talking about blockchain. Mukesh Ambani, and I think I've been focusing on that same question and again and again. Cryptocurrency was just one application. It's a beautiful application. And frankly speaking, blockchain was if I'm not correct, and someone can search for me, blockchain as a concept, the paper was released some 20 years back by a Japanese theorist.
Actually,
right?
The roots goes back to 1969 if we actually try to go back over there.
Right? The only rule, and that's why I think your question comes in, and it's not naive. It's a very important question because that's how media is also putting it in. Blockchain came in prominence because someone used that concept to invent cryptocurrency. As soon as cryptocurrency picked up, people realized that this particular framework has extremely huge potential, and people started adoption across the board. And now that particular application, which is cryptocurrency, is facing government regulation. That's not a problem, right? There are multiple other frameworks. And even if you saw my presentation, you will realize that I didn't even talk about cryptocurrency, and there were still so many interesting things. I even found an application in the music industry, right? Which I think should summarize that question. I hope that answered the question. What was the name? Sorry.
It was from Yash Chaudhary.
Yash, I hope that I was able to answer the question. Again, feel free to put a follow-up question there.
Okay. So I think next question we should take is from Sudeep. So Sudeep has having a question whether a person having 10 plus years of experience in engineering, will that person will have a scope in blockchain in career?
What's the name of the person?
Sudeep.
Sudeep, can I request you? I'll take the other question. Can I request you? What type of engineering are you talking about while you have asked the question? And can you also give me a brief understanding? And can you also give me a brief understanding of what background you have? You can post all your details on the right side of the chat window, and I'll take that question again. Samruddha, please ensure that this question is answered at the end of the session. Is there any other question?
So I think we will continue with the questions further.
Wonderful.
I think we should come to the part where we discuss more about the blockchain and the future scope of the blockchain.
Wonderful. So great. Sudeep, I'll request you to put all those details there. And until then, I'll go back to the presentation and take you through some of the other details. Great. Samir, can you see the deck now? Can you see the presentation? Let me check. It's visible? Perfect. Great. So I think interesting note to start with, right? It says it's the beginning, not the end. right? So it's the middle of the session, and do not get bored. I think we have talked about blockchain as a industry. What are some of the application? Now let's deep dive into that. Why is upskilling in blockchain the need of the hour? And then we'll talk about. See, frankly speaking, we're not here to talk about only upgrad in Triple IT Bangalore, but given that we know most about it, I think we'll spend significant time there. But I think we have built a case, right? Samruddha, do you agree? We have built a case.
Yes.
So I think the case is built that this is the space to be in, and then it comes down to what are some of the options available. So before I get into the programs, I'll think there is a need to put a broader framework, right? I would not say that getting through a program is the first step, right? The first step is research, right? The first step is talk to your friends, research, talk to our counselors, talk to a lot of people, not just from a perspective of enrolling in a program, but first of all understand the landscape. And I again congratulate you that you guys, you all of my our viewers are doing the right thing by coming to webinars like this, and I'm sure you'll attend a lot of other webinars, but this is, I think, the right platform to be in, and you're taking the first step right. Then comes the second bit. Again, taking a program again, is that the only way out? No, I'll not say that, right? If you are already working with one of the large IT services providers, you can ask your peers, you can talk about blockchain with them, you can talk to your partners in the organization and understand that is in their in any other vertical, is there something interesting happening in blockchain? And I'm sure they'll say yes, right? So they will be more than happy to take you in their teams, and then you can start working on blockchain. But having said that, if you'll go to your partner who's handling another vertical, say BFSI, and you'll talk to them, I think the first thing that they'll say is that, do you really understand blockchain, and do you have a solid foundation? And that's where organizations like us, uh, academic institutions like Triple IT Bangalore come in, and they ensure that our learners, working professionals, actually have a very, very solid understanding of how the landscape is actually working out to be, right? And so coming to back to our program, what does that really mean? I think the first thing, I'll just give some history about how we started working with Triple IT Bangalore. So Triple IT Bangalore is one academic institution which has actually ensured that it is working on all the emerging technologies.
Yes.
It is a leader in artificial intelligence,
It is in ML, machine
learning, data
data
science,
science.
blockchain,
Yes.
right? Full stack. Across the emerging technologies, Triple IT Bangalore has been working, and that's their niche expertise, right? And yes,
what advantage they come up with? The location. It is located in the Silicon Valley of India, which is Electronic City, Bangalore. So they have that exposure of industry experts actually sitting around their physical presence.
yeah, no, completely agree that they are in the right in the city, and they ensure that they are in touch with all the new things that are happening. So at upgrad we have two key programs for anyone who's interested in blockchain, and I'll take some time to talk about both of them. So the program differ in two ways. One is the duration, and the other is what is exactly the need of the hour for you, right? So if you're a software developer and you've been working on all some of the new relevant technologies, your all the concepts are brushed up, and you feel that you are the best software developer, right? Or you are all on top in terms of all the technologies, all the basic framework, we have a shorter duration program, which is for only 6 months. And you can brush up all the concepts on blockchain development, blockchain applications, and the entire architecture of how you will actually go about implementing blockchain. That's called PG certification in blockchain technology, right? However, what we generally recommend is that we have another program, which is the PG diploma program, which is a 11th month long program. And that is a new age program wherein you will actually be taken through how software development is done today in the world, right? It's very different from how it was being done 10 years down the line. Agile has come into place. The entire model where we used to have the waterfall sort of arrangement is not happening. Agile is working out. Full stack development.
Front end DevOps are being popular in the industry right now.
Exactly. Full stack is becoming again very, very critical. So if you want to start with that and you want to be completely on top of the game and want really need to understand how the product and software development life cycle is actually panning out, you can start with all the refresher concepts, and then again you get into the 6 months of core blockchain development, blockchain architecture program, right? And again, I hope that answered bit of the questions on how the two programs are different. Again, if you have any questions, please post it on the right side of the window, and I'll be happy to take any of that question. Now, Samruddha, if I have to talk about what are the 8 things because of which upgrad's program with IIT Bangalore is special, what would you want to talk about? Would you want to talk about those 8 points?
Yes, I think the very first point would be hands-on learning experience. Whenever you are talking about technology, it is not enough to just get that functional understanding of the technology. So I think hands-on learning, actually writing those codes, writing those programs, and finding that there are some bugs that are coming into those programs will make you the proper programmer. So I think hands-on learning is one aspect that is a very key factor in upgrades programs.
Great. I think that I'm bang on. I'll talk about some of the others also, Samruddha, if you allow me.
Yeah.
And then I think the first thing that becomes important, as Samruddha rightly said, is hands-on. We do not believe in just giving some content and we're done. We actually handhold you. We actually chase you if you're not doing your assignments, and we ensure that we have a very, very strongly developed content vetted by industry experts, right from someone who's working with IBM blockchain labs, working with bank chains. There's so many experts you would have seen on the website that are working with us. And then you get a recognition. You get either a PG certificate or you get a PG diploma. If you complete the program, you get student career support. You can actually learn on the go, right? You can easily be traveling and be able to answer questions. A significant number of our learners are actually ones who are on site, right? Who are actually based in US, UK, where there is the biggest market, and most of people really feel that that's their dream to be on site. And a lot of learners, because they get time there, they're able to take out time for this program. And when they come back, if you are a business analyst, you are just capturing requirement, you actually make a case for yourself to be promoted to a consultant. If you are just a backend developer, you actually say that no, I'm done working only offsite. I actually need to go on site. And a lot of our learners actually are working on site, and that we actually feel proud that they're able to manage their time and they're able to do great. And once they come back, they see real opportunities. Now that's all about that. Okay, you get all this thing, but what does that come out to? And I think that was one of the question by it was a very broad question by Sabarish Yanduru. Sabarish, I would first of all want you to frame your questions much more strongly. I'll not answer the question what are the job opportunities, right? Because that's a very broad question. So I would request you if you can rephrase it and maybe give a little more context on what your background is, and I'll be able to answer that better. But what do we do to ensure that the 3 career paths that I talked about, a developer, manager, and architect, what are we doing there? I think the first thing that we do is that with all the learnings and with all the hands-on experience, you already I would say are talented, right? You're upskilled. Now what's the second thing that's required? The second thing is required is, do you have a persona? Do you have a social media profile, LinkedIn profile? Do you have your CV prepared? And we help you with all that. We do a proper resume feedback session. We do your social media profile building, and we do a lot of mock interviews with you, right? Which becomes very critical, because at the end of the day, everything drops down to whether you are able to have that strong conversation in an interview, or whether you're able to go to that partner and say that, hey, I really want to work in this particular field, and I'm interested and I'm upskilled and I know this field. And if you can have that conversation, we actually help you with a lot of mock interviews, right? And then comes the most important thing, wherein we have a job portal where we'll be continuously posting opportunities across the landscape. So in at upgrad, IT professionals and the sector of emerging technology is our forte.
Yes.
And we have partnerships with organizations like Uber. We have partnerships with some of the biggest IT services companies. I was about to name one. And we get a lot of opportunities, and you'll see these opportunities are scattered across the portfolios of manager, architects, and developers. I would put a caveat here that for manager and consultants, you would not, frankly speaking, even need us to help you, because at the end of the day, if you are working in one of the organization, I can tell you that within 1 year they'll be needing more blockchain people who understand blockchain as a technology, and not really all the bluff that people can have and they can talk about for an hour on blockchain, but actual understanding, deep knowledge of how the framework works. They would need that, and if you are already 5, 6, 10 years experience, you would get a transition yourself. We would be happy to help you and we'll prepare you for everything that's required. For developers, we have entire recruitment drive, and we see so many success stories. Samruddha would be happy to share some of the success stories later in the session. But that's how it works out, right? There's so many opportunities that come out. We've been running this program for the 3 months. You can go to our website and hear some of the reviews that our learners are talking about, right? So I hope that answered part of the question. Now, let's
So I
take,
think
yeah.
in reference to these 3-4 points, I think we have answered Sonali's question, which was, can someone from non-tech background can get into this blockchain program? So I think she's asking for someone who is a BE electronics engineer, not having experience of programming or coding.
Yeah.
So I think yes, with the help of hands-on experience, with one-on-one industry mentorship that we are offering into this program, a non-tech person can get into blockchain development domain. The answer would be yes, Sonali.
But just to put a caveat there, I think you have to opt for the longer program, which is the PG diploma program, because we'll have to start with the basics of programming there with you. You'll also have to put in a little more effort than someone who is already there, who's been doing coding for some time. But again, it's not impossible. I think around 30% of our batch actually comes from non-coding background. They take the PG diploma program and they are they are completely equipped with being able to write codes. And the fact, as Samruddha is again and again talking about, the program is hands-on, right? The program actually teaches you how to code, gives you so many assignments that at the end of the day you end up learning how to code, right? So that should not be a problem. And blockchain development, then once you know the basics of coding, then blockchain development, yeah, everyone is starting from scratch. So that should not be a problem for you. Again, my only caveat is, if someone is putting X effort, you'll have to put 1.2x.
Okay. So again, as we are talking about the non-tech people, we have a similar question from Gautam, Jain, and Sheetal. Yeah. So it is related to a finance and CA. So okay, so as a CA with 25 years of experience, I wish to use blockchain for finance business. So is it possible? That is the question.
So I'll have, again, I mean, see, I do not like to answer very, very broad questions. I'll have to understand what's the scale at which your business is, right? To actually implement a proper blockchain transformation for your business, I'll first of all have to understand what's the scale of your business. And maybe I'll run you through the framework in which how you should think about it. First of all, the answer is yes, if the business is of a big enough size and it can actually collaborate with one of the other IT services providers, and you need to have, and there are niche IT services providers. There are firms which operate at with just 1 or 2 developers and 1 architect who can create an entire system. It would be good if on the same in the chat box, if one of us can share the ebook that we have on blockchain careers. If on the chat box, if someone can share that, it'll be extremely helpful for all the viewers of this particular webinar, because that actually takes you through how you go through the entire blockchain development process if you're a small to medium business owner. So my answer is it can be done based on the size of your business. Second thing, you'll have to first get a dipstick done. What is a dipstick? A dipstick is basically a sort of a diagnostic where a developer where an auditor will come to your organization, will do a basic assessment for 2 to 3 days, will give you an assessment whether blockchain can be implemented or not, and then you will have to do a sort of a proposal. You'll have to ask for a proposal from one of the small to large IT firms, depending on the size of the business. And within 3 to 6 months, you will see that the deployment happens, right, for blockchain level projects. So that should not be a worry. But again, it's a high level answer that I'm giving, because I do not have detail to exactly
about
what
the
business,
exact problem statement.
yeah, because if you can, I'll be more than happy to get on a call if that is something your 25 years experience, it would be an enriching experience for someone like me to get more information. So if there is something that you really want to talk that directly to me, my email ID would be placed right on the chat box, and we can have a one-on-one after this. Any other question?
Yeah, I think we are getting a relevant questions which are from the relevant domain people. So we have question from Naga, who is having 12 years of experience in Oracle
Okay.
in ERP system.
Okay.
So will it be? Its question is, will it be open for me, and how would be the opportunity on blockchain consultant?
Okay, so he's saying, will the program be open for him?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's a perfect fit. I think we can even, I mean, I'll be more than happy to talk about a few people who have actually come from working across different types of architecture system. I think the first thing which becomes very important is that uh, one, do you have basic understanding of how the landscape works? Then at the end of the day, for someone who's been working on these technologies, becomes important is that will you have the confidence enough to go again to someone who is working in the same domain and talk, and actually being able to smooth talk them through the fact that you're actually motivated to do the program. So I'll break the problem in your question into two bit. One, is this program open and can you learn? I am telling you that the program is open. Plus, I think you would have your best place to learn from this program and get extremely relevant information out. I answered the question for one of the candidate. I think Sonali said, right, non-tech background.
Yes.
I said, Sonali, you'll have to spend 1.2x. I'm telling Naga that you'll have to spend 0.9x, 10% lesser time actually, because some of the concepts that we brush up in the beginning would sound a little obvious to you, but given that we have to cater to the larger audience, we do those two. So it's a perfect fit. Now the second part of the program, whether as a consultant there is space. Again, I think there is another webinar which we conducted with Shibil, right? What Shibin, right? He's actually a pre-sales consultant with IBM Labs, right? And we did a very interesting webinar with him. I would, again, if possible, I'll ask them to share the link with you, where the entire agenda was that as pre-sales consultant, is blockchain working? And he actually talked about his own story on how he shifted from a very Salesforce oriented model to actually getting into blockchain. So I think the first thing that you'll have to be, are you convinced that you want to change your expertise from an Oracle based framework to a blockchain based framework? You'll have to have that trust in your mind. Once you have that, right, and how will you get that? You'll have to talk to us, you'll have to talk to do your own homework. Once you have that, at this experience level, at where you are, you can reach out to a lot of people. We'll help you reach out to a lot of people to ensure that you get relevant opportunity. Again, I think I've built a strong enough case that within the sector, if you're already there in IT services, the transition is smooth, transition is possible. It's all about whether you are ready and whether you are trusting the technology.
I think considering his experience of 12 years, if that profile is having the experience of software development life cycle in reference to ERP, then that will definitely come handy to you when you're shifting onto the blockchain. Because obviously blockchain consultants will be looking forward to have that proper onboarding of clients, delegation of tasks, prototyping, testing, and delivering your projects.
The question is from Naga, right?
Yeah.
So Naga, one thing is that ERP systems generally are huge in terms of implementation, right? And I'm sure you will be extremely skilled in that sector. And believe me, blockchain deployment is even more difficult, right? So anyone who really believes that, if you come from the background of having a solid understanding of implementation, then with an add-on understanding of blockchain, you would be one of the most valuable resources. And again, I would say you should actually check out Shibin's profile. We can actually just post it on the channel itself.
Have it on our website.
Right? We have it on our website. He's one of our instructors. He actually made a transition very similar to yours. So I think that will be one of the best use case.
Yeah. Again, we have a similar question. It is from Rupesh.
Yeah.
20 years experience tech manager. What does blockchain add to the profile?
Okay. Again, it's a very tech manager in what I'm really not sure. Would be extremely helpful if you can answer that. If it's a technology, if you mean it's a project manager, it does add a lot of value, right? Because I have worked with IT services firms across, again, as I said, India and Southeast Asia, and I understand that the project manager in today's world, especially with Agile coming in, You cannot just be one person who knows project management. You really need to understand the technology itself. So if you really are a project manager or a team lead sort of in space in the IT services organization, then I would say that the answer is yes, it becomes very important. It adds a star point to your I would not say resume, to your profile, because what it does is that it gives you one more domain knowledge. And as the market will open up, whenever there'll be any talks about staffing or leveraging a resource for even selling, if you have your end goal as someone who wants to move towards pre-sales and would want to move towards the engagement bidding process, then I think a technology like this with your wonderful experience, 20 years experience, would be helpful. For you, I would recommend that if you really want to do, you can actually opt for the shorter program also, right? Because that'll start directly talking about blockchain development, because you'll all the other concepts, I assume, will already be brushed up.
Yeah. And again, we had a similar question from Jagdish as well, who is asking similar profile, a technical manager. How this course would be helpful for technical managers?
So I think I've
I think
already
similarly,
answered.
6 month program directly jump onto the blockchain, which will give you the exact skill sets that are required for the blockchain development on
Wonderful.
Ethereum and Hyperledger part.
Okay, I think our boss right now, who's coordinating the chat, is actually ringing us saying that time is up. But is it okay, Samir, if I take 10 more minutes to answer some of the questions?
Yes, we have a good question from Yash Chaudhary.
Yeah.
He's asking, can this program help me in creating my own blockchain startup?
Wonderful. How should I start? Would you want to take the first shot?
Again, it will depend on profile. I think this is a very we would need some understanding of in what sort of domain you have worked, and how you're looking forward to go ahead with this particular startup, and what sort of clients you will look forward to onboarding.
So I don't know. I just want to take Ronnie's lens first, right? Because Ronnie Screwwala is our co-founder and is chairman of upGrad, and he is one of the best known entrepreneur in India. Started up UTV, went on to do so many things, upGrad being one of them. Uh, if if I had that lens, my answer would be very blunt. You don't even need us to start up startup in blockchain, right? You don't need us, and I'll be very blunt in saying that. Uh, and I mean, it takes. Samir is looking at me saying that, okay, why are you saying that? But the idea is that if you really want to start up, you don't really need a program. You don't really need anything. First thing that you need is, are you motivated enough? One, do you have the right people around you? Third, do you understand the field well enough? Do you have the technical expertise in that space? I think the first and the second maybe will help. First is completely your game, right? We can't do anything there. Second, uh, building network also in part is your responsibility, but again, through a program, once you talk to so many people in India, you'll not get more people talking about blockchain than at upGrad, right? So yes, you'll build a community there. Yes, could be helpful. Second, will you understand the landscape better? I hope the today's session was partly useful. There'll be so many discussions that will happen during the program with core blockchain experts. I'll be candid enough to say that neither I nor Samruddha is actually is a true blockchain expert, right? We are consolidators. We have brought everything together. We ensure that we are sort of pre-sales consultants, or we are sort of project managers.
We are like a property of blockchain, smooth flow of transactions.
Yeah. So if that's the case, I would say that first of all, you do not need us. What you would really need to do is that you need to understand the landscape and you need to understand the technical aspect of it. And I can assure you that in this program, we'll do that. You may even get a chance to meet Ronnie in one of our base camps, where you can get some insights on how to start up. But again, to start up, you don't need anything, right? You just need motivation and true aspiration to actually kill it. Next question. I hope that I answered that question well.
Again, we have a question from Rupesh.
Yeah.
He's saying, I am 40 plus, I have 20 years of IT experience. How do I perceive blockchain? So I think these are some relevant questions coming from the same sort of people which we have already answered.
Yeah.
15, 20 years of experience. working in the tech domain.
Yeah.
So these people are expecting some consolidated answer, but I think it is very difficult to give these answers without the precise understanding of your profile and your technical expertise. If we do it in general, that I think that would be a little bit of misleading from
So
our end.
instead of saying no to answering that question, my request would be, please drop my email ID on the right side of the chat window. Please give me a brief about your profile and the understanding of what exactly are you looking for, and phrase your question. I'll ensure that I write back tonight, possibly, or tomorrow morning with a proper answer to that question. And if required, Samruddha or I would be happy to get on a call to actually take you further. So in the interest of time, I think Samir now is telling me that it's too late, and please let some of our viewers also go back to their families. So with that in mind, I would say that let us just spend one 2 more minutes on the last slide that I had, and I think it becomes important, right? So one thing before I end the session is that please do not stop here, right? Keep doing your research, keep talking to our counselors, keep looking for relevant programs, courses that could help you upskill. I have listed down a few experts in India, and they also have companies which are actually working on blockchain. And you should follow them on Twitter, on LinkedIn, because, for example, Nitin Gaur, who is the director of International IBM Blockchain Labs, right? He talks so much about blockchain on his channel. There's actually a very nice blog on IBM. I'm almost doing marketing for IBM now. So there's a very nice blog on IBM on only on blockchains. It talks about applications across sectors. You should continue doing that. We have Prime Chain Technologies, which again, Chief Blockchain Architect Rohan Nagpal is one of our instructors. There's so many lists, people in the list. I'll just take a pause of 20 seconds so that either you can take a screenshot, or you can also see the recorded video later at this point of time to follow some of these people, and it becomes important. And last, this is my sales pitch, right? Where I say that it's now or never, and I taking a step back, I think we've talked about the landscape, we talked about how the industry is working, but this is my personal learning of around 2 years in higher online education space, especially for working professionals. You spend today 1 hour, and if you think that after 6 months you will now take another step, that 6 months do not come, and you lose the first mover advantage. So that's the only point that I was trying to make here. One, this is the right time to enroll for a program, and you will ride on the first mover advantage, and that becomes crucial. Second, to build a much more robust career, you need to understand that there is a supply and demand gap today, and it will not be 5 years down the line, because organizations like us will keep continue to upskilling people in that sector. And if you really want to use that advantage in the next year, next 3 years, want to make uh, 3x the amount of the money that your other colleagues will be making, then I think this is the right time. And last and not the least, I think I'll stop the screen just so that I'm visible. Is that last thing is that, see, we are here to help you out to uh, track your actual career journey. And our team, you would have, most of you would have been in touch with one or the other member of the team. We're starting one batch on just 17th, which is just 4 days left, right? So if you want to enroll for that program, feel free to do that. Feel free to give me a buzz, and I'll be more than happy to have a word with you. There's also another program which is starting on 30th June, which is the shorter program, 6 months program, which, or 28th June, sorry. And again, you can register for that program too. My only request to you would be, please don't, and you can sleep over for today on this thought, but tomorrow, please take action. Because if you do not act after spending 1.5 hours with some of us on a special weekend, it's raining here in Bombay, and all of us would want to love to go out. If that's the case, then I would request all of you to spend some time, go through our website, look at some of our other competitors too, and please, please, please take action. I'm not saying enroll in only our program, but please take action after today's webinar. Feel free to reach out to me. We are here. We'll again be back a couple of weekends in advance, and and we'll keep notifying you. And stay tuned with us at upGrad. Happy learning, I would say. And as where we started in the first slide, right? Can you really get into blockchain by 2020? And this is the way forward. Thank you.